Open enrollment is coming.
Employees have some very basic general questions, pretty much, they ask every single time.
And your answers better be ready.
Top 10 questions. Let's jump right into it. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about getting ready for employee questions at open enrollment. My name is DeWeese, and I've been working in the area of employee benefits, insurance, HR, over the last 20 plus years. I've worked with hundreds of employers on their employee benefits projects and plans over these last 20 years, and I've seen a lot of patterns. I've seen a lot of different stages of employers, anywhere from a startup to a company that is growing quickly and changing systems, streamlining communications and rehauling their benefit package, mergers and acquisitions, big corporate changes, structural changes, ownership changes, moving from small group to large group, getting things more systematic within the business. So I've worked with a wide range of employers in this area, and for the most part, employees have some very basic general questions, pretty much, they ask every single time, regardless if you're a startup or a large employer. Today, I'm going to go over some of those questions. I'm also going to go over some nerdy stuff regarding premium only plans and Section 125 plans. So for those of you who are HR nerds and want to hang out and listen to that part, I'm happy to go over that with you. Finally, I want to talk about some qualified health expenses and some other topics that tend to come up during open enrollment. So let's jump right into it. As we prepare for open enrollment, most employers renew somewhere around or on January 1st, and we are creeping ever so quickly towards that date. We're just hurling towards 2026 at this point. As I review plans and options with my clients and help employers finalize their plans for open enrollment and their decisions for open enrollment for 2026 or the last months of 2025, I am reminded of all of these questions that come up from employees. And we also have to remember, why are we even doing this? We are doing this for the employees. We're doing this for the employees' families. We're doing this to attract and retain top talent. Most employers are offering benefits strategically. They want the best employees they can afford. They want to make sure their employees aren't getting ripped off from any vendors or anybody educating them about additional plans that they can buy. The employer is in a protective mode for their employees. They're also in a paternal and maternal state of mind where we're really looking at how is this change going to affect every single person in the organization line by line in some cases, or what's going to positively impact the group as a whole, and what percentage are we aiming for? Are we aiming for 100%? Are we aiming for 80% or anywhere in between there? So what are the goals and objectives of the company at open enrollment? The goals and objectives and why we're even doing this is for the employees. I like to keep a very employee-centric mindset and really put myself in the employee's shoes and think about ahead of time the questions that are going to come up. And so in this video, we're going to go over that, and I just picked 10. So some of the top 10 questions. And this is my number one question that I feel as though some people ask, but everyone should ask. Okay, and it is, does my deductible transfer? Does my out-of-pocket transfer? Most employees do not fully understand what a deductible means, and certainly most employees do not even know what a max out-of-pocket means. I talk to people every day that don't know what an out-of-pocket means. And a deductible, when I'm explaining these things, I'm usually giving a very concrete example. I'm saying this is your plan, or these are the plan options that we're looking at. And in scenario 1, this is what would happen. In scenario 2, this is what would happen with the same example. So because I'm not using an exact plan, because I'm not your broker, this is not healthcare advice or any kind of insurance advice or financial advice, I'm not your agent, This is just meant to be a very general description, which obviously, as you can tell with all my disclaimers, is tough for me because I want to be upfront and honest and transparent every time I do anything regarding anyone's financial well-being or their health. Very sensitive topics, right? So I want to be responsible, but hopefully you understand that I'm giving a very general example in order to explain the definition of deductible and max out of pocket. Let's say you have a $1,000 deductible and an $8,000 max out of pocket PPO plan, and your coinsurance is 30%. Let's say that's your plan. Now, I know I just threw a bunch of googly insurancy jargon at you. And so in order to explain that, I will walk through what that means in a real life scenario. So God forbid, let's say that you have a $100,000 claim and this is your plan. So of that $100,000, you would pay the first $1,000. You have a $1,000 deductible, you pay the 1,000. The insurance company pays nothing during your deductible. Just like with car insurance, you get in an accident. Let's say you have a $1,000 deductible and it's a bumper scratch. That bumper scratch might be less than the 1,000, so the insurance company would pay nothing and you would pay the full price. Now, if it's a bigger accident and falls over 1,000, you pay the first 1,000. The insurance company pays nothing of that first 1,000. Everything after that is then covered by the insurance. Similar here in health insurance. However, with health insurance, it's not per incident. It's not per time you go to the hospital in most cases. It's usually a calendar year, or at least a 12-month long deductible. Most people, it's calendar year, so that's the example I'll use. So from January 1st to December 31st of every year, you would have this $1,000 deductible, and you could use it up all at once or incrementally throughout the year. In the example where we have, God forbid, a $100,000 claim, you pay the first $1,000 out of your pocket. Now there's $99,000 left, and your coinsurance is 30%. So the coinsurance says you pay 30% of the charge and the insurance company covers 70%. Well, you're not expected to pay $33,000 because you have a max out of pocket. $8,000, $8,000 in this scenario, you would pay that 30% of the hospital bill up to the total $8,000 max out of pocket. The max out-of-pocket duration is usually the same amount of time as the deductible. In this example, the deductible is calendar year from January 1st to December 31st of every year. Likewise, your max out-of-pocket is also from January 1st to December 31st of every year. So even though in this scenario we have met our deductible and max out-of-pocket one big claim, you could also meet that incrementally throughout the year. And once that max out-of-pocket is met, everything is covered at 100%. All of your copays, all of your deductibles, even if you go to a pharmacy, if you go and pick up a generic drug that's a $10 copay, you're not supposed to be paying any of those copays. If you've met your max out of pocket, you're not supposed to be paying your office visit copays. Every time you go to the hospital, that's supposed to be covered. If you haven't need any more surgeries for the rest of the year, that's supposed to be covered as long as you follow the pre-authorization processes and go to an in-network doctor and follow all the restrictions of the plan, right? And you can't go out and get a boob job, right? You have to get something that's considered medically covered under the health plan. Now, the question is, does my deductible roll over? So oftentimes we have employers, maybe they renew June 1st, in the middle of the year, and they have a calendar year deductible. Their plans all have calendar year deductibles, which means although the renewal is in the middle of the year, their deductible doesn't restart until January 1st. So let's say we change plans. The employer goes from a PPO with $500 deductible to a PPO with a $2,000 deductible. So in that scenario where you're keeping the same insurance carrier, let's say you have Aetna and your employer comes and they say, we're going from a $500 deductible plan to a $2,000 in the middle of the year, come 6/1. Does your deductible reset? Do you have to start all over? The answer is no. If you are with an employer and have the same insurance company and you're just changing plans, if you've already met that $500 in the first 6 months of the year, the back half of the year, that deductible would be transferred over, okay, that $500. So now, even though you technically have a $2,000 deductible, You're going to have $1,500 left for the rest of the year, for that rest of the 6 months to meet if you need to. Hopefully you don't have to go to the doctor and you're completely healthy and nothing happens. But if you did have to, then you have $1,500 until December 31st. Now on January 1st, it is going to reset and kick back up to the 2,000 because it's a calendar year deductible, an annual deductible. And when it's calendar year deductible, it resets every January. Now, there are some plans that do have a plan year deductible, so that could be you, but I'm just going to use calendar year because this is the one that I see most often with most people. Then we have the scenario where an employer is changing carriers. Let's say they're going from Aetna to Blue Cross, and they are going from a $500 deductible plan to another $500 deductible plan. Let's say it's exactly the same. And they're in the middle of the year. They're 6/1, they're June 1, and they're starting over. They're with a new carrier, right? Deductible might reset. Yes, you're on a new plan. Most of the time when an employer moves health plans, they can transfer the deductible. This is not the case with individual. Okay, this is with group plans. So if one group goes from one carrier to another, we can set it up where we can transfer the deductible, that $500 that your employees have already met, and make sure that gets over to the new carrier. Now, the sad part is that most carriers will not consider transferring the max out of pocket. In that scenario, if we go back to that employee in scenario number one, that first example I gave, God forbid, have a $100,000 claim, maybe they've already met their out of pocket. They've already paid out $8,000 in the first 6 months of the year. Oh, that's great. My $500 deductible is met, but now I was planning on having knee surgery and other things for the rest of the year. And now I'm going to be paying out of pocket for those claims and have another max out of pocket to meet. Now, when we come across situations like this, and we have a very employee-centric employer, I have seen where many employers consider changing their renewal date. So when we're in a startup situation and a company is excited and growing, you just start benefits whenever you have to start benefits. You have these new employees or you're attracting these brilliant people into your business and they expect benefits. So you want to get them benefits as quickly as possible, or you have a really new hotshot sales guy heading over that you finally were able to headhunt and bring to your business. And you promised them benefits. You got to set it up, and it's March, and the soonest we can do it is April or May, and your start date's May. And now every year after that, you're renewing in May. As you grow and expand, that May renewal date may not have ever been an issue before. You were smaller, not everybody was using the plans. If you had to make a plan change, we could always handle it, transfer deductibles, change plans, make sure that everybody gets a plan that works for them. Maybe we have 25 different plans offering to 25 different people. There's all sorts of things a smaller business can do to accommodate some of these pitfalls of making changes without changing the renewal date. There seems to come a point where many employers decide to change the renewal date to January because of this max out-of-pocket transfer. If you have 50, 100, 200, 250 plus employees, you cannot know what is going on in everybody's life. When you have this max out-of-pocket just going away, vanishing into thin air, we found a great option for everybody. Maybe we're even able to improve benefits and reduce costs, and it's going to be great for everyone. There's going to be a percentage of people out of that 200 people that are going to be left out in the cold. And it's not a few $100s. It could be thousands of dollars. So in these situations, we do have to assume that somebody is going to get the short end of the stick in a change like this. One way to avoid that is we'll do it when the plan resets. It's deductible and it's max out of pockets, which is usually January 1st. You don't have to worry about a max transferring if you're doing it January 1st. It's just everybody's going to reset anyway, and you can make a clean plan change on January 1st. One of the questions is, does my deductible transfer? Does my out-of-pocket transfer? What will I need to do to find a doctor with my current provider? You want to have a clean, easy to understand document that explains how to find providers. Many insurance companies have these flyers available that you can send out to your employees. We can also address it at open enrollment, put it in the benefit guide. and so on. Be prepared to have that question be asked and have the resources available ahead of time. What happens to my prescriptions? Will they be covered with the new plan? Now, if you're staying with the same carrier, the answer is yes. Everything's going to be in their system. If you've gone through step therapy or you've gotten prior authorizations, that insurance company should be able to pull on that information and have no disruption, even if you're changing plans. However, if you're changing carriers, those carriers do not share information at all, especially personal health information. So if you have been on a medication, a specialized medication, a medication that is a formulary, maybe something that's a little harder to get, something that's a little bit more expensive than the generic route, they are going to want you to go through the prior authorization steps again. Now, your doctor can refer to old notes and send those in to the new insurance carrier. It's basically the same information that they submitted before. It should be very similar, but it is a new form. It is a new process. It does take time. Your doctor's office is going to have to take the time to fill it out, to turn it in. Even when these things get turned in, sometimes they get turned into the wrong place or there's a typo. It seems like there's always delays with these things. Knowing that there are going to be prescription drug issues before you make the change so that when they come after the change is made, it's not a huge surprise to everyone. And it does minimize stress, help set expectations with the employees. So if the employees know up front, hey, if you really need a medication, please get a backup. Please get samples from your doctor. Please get another refill before your old plan cancels to give the system and you some time before you absolutely need that medication, and it could harm you if you delay taking the medication on time. Something just to bring up during open enrollment, of course, we do have fire drills at open enrollment regarding these kinds of issues. It happens even as much as we plan or as much as we talk to the employees about what can be done to help them avoid these situations or help minimize stress during these kinds of changes. It happens anyway. So I'm not saying any of these are perfect solutions, but they are things to think about and help set expectations with your staff and employees during a transition. Do you have to re-enroll or will my benefits roll over automatically? This is usually up to the employer whether they want the benefits to roll automatically or if they require the employee to touch every single piece of the enrollment each year. I'm open to both. Of course, if you're signing up with a new carrier, usually rollover isn't an option because we may need a signature from each and every employee. But at most open enrollments, rolling over is completely a fine option to move forward with. And employees absolutely love that as an option. They don't have to log into the system. It's one less thing for them to do administratively. They absolutely love not having to log in and let everything renew and keep it moving. What happens to services I've already scheduled or ongoing treatment? If you are changing carriers, this is an important topic to bring up with your HR. If you're planning a surgery, there may be additional forms that you need to fill out for transition of care with your new insurance company. So these are all great questions and should be addressed at open enrollment if a benefit plan change is occurring or a carrier change is occurring. Is there a grace period to submit claims from the old plan? Yes, most carriers do allow 6 months. So let's say you get a treatment on December 31st and your plan changes January 1st. You have 6 months to submit that claim for reimbursement to your old insurance carrier because insurance companies go off date of service. Any services that you had gotten in the entire year of 2025 would go to that insurance company, and any claims that happened after in 2026 would go to the new insurance company. So just keep in mind, it just all goes off of date of service. Who can I contact if I have questions about my coverage? And also, more importantly, who can my spouse contact if they have questions about my insurance? Yes, always have contact information available, obviously in the employee handbook. Also in your benefits guide. So we have benefits guides for our employers and clearly list all the contacts, the most important contacts an employee may want to reach out to, and communicate with several emails prior to the open enrollment meeting or open enrollment educational meeting to show employees what materials are going to be used and also any backup educational materials they may want to reference later, like the benefit guide. Is the new plan more expensive to me? What is my total payroll deductions and so on? Yes, you definitely want to have this ahead of time. Make sure you have a process to get employee signatures on everything before you do any payroll deductions. Most of you out there are going to have what's called a POP or a premium only plan or a POP plan, Section 125. This is a very important plan for you to have. It's very simple to get. It usually costs about $100, but what it does is it allows you to take deductions from your employees' paychecks and also take it pre-tax. So all of these health insurances, dental, and any other plans you want to add that the employees may be paying a portion of, you definitely need to have a POP plan in place. Make sure you get them signing off on any changes to their payroll deductions. Have to get a signature from the employee. It's very important. As the employees choose their new plans, you will have to calculate what those deductions are going to be, get them in the POP form, and get them completed by the employee. Some of our clients do this through online enrollment systems and other systems that are available to them either through their payroll provider or through us. So there are other ways of doing it rather than the paper way, but if you're just starting out in HR, just know that it is very important to learn about this and make sure that these sorts of things are being done. So as we get into the Section 125, this is where qualifying events and, oh, you can't do that, you can't make this change, we can't change this employee from here to there. It's where all of this happens, where all of your qualifying event language is for benefits. This is really the piece of guidance that you need to refer to when an employee asks, can I make a change? Yes, you can ask your health insurance company or any of your providers the same question, but where the rubber really meets the road is your Section 125 POP plan and whether or not the IRS allows you to make changes. When you set up that POP plan, and again, I'm not an attorney, this is not legal advice, this is just my very high level baseline cave lady understanding of how this works. A premium only plan that says, dear IRS, we are going to be taking premiums for health plans out of our employees' paychecks, and we're going to be doing that pre-tax. Each year, any changes to those deduction amounts, let's say the first year you tell the IRS, all the employees are getting $100 taken out of their paycheck pre-tax biweekly, and that's their cost for all these benefits. Great. Then the next year it changes to $105. You have to get that updated on your form and get a signature from the employee on that. The only time you can make changes to those deduction amounts is during these permitted mid-year changes and all of these circumstances and conditions listed out by the IRS, and they're fairly straightforward. With a health insurance plan, they cancel a plan for the most part, as long as they get a 30-day notice and all that sort of stuff. The insurance carrier will not let you add anybody to the plan unless it's open enrollment or unless there's a qualifying event like a marriage or a birth. That is when they will allow you to enroll, but they are going to allow a termination at any time. They don't require any documentation when terminations happen. You as the employer submit the request for a termination, and that's that. Now, for an enrollment, the health insurance company is going to require possibly a marriage certificate, a birth certificate, or a social security card, something. They can ask for supporting documentation to enroll someone. My point in saying all that is the guidelines from the insurance carriers are usually a lot more flexible than what the IRS puts out. So it is better to follow the guidance under the IRS rules than to go off of what the insurance carriers say. If you have a POP plan and you're deducting things pre-tax, you have to have a change in status event for the employee to change any of those deductions they signed off on. They have to have a marriage, divorce, legal separation, birth, adoption, death of a spouse, change in employment, dependents become eligible or ineligible. I can list all of these out for you in the video as well. Did they lose or gain other coverage? This is a permitted mid-year change. So if an employee comes to you and they say, I want to cancel my plan, you have to make sure one of these things happen before you can terminate the plan. A HIPAA special enrollment rights, a birth and adoption, loss of Medicaid, becoming eligible for premium assistance, and so on, significant cost or coverage changes, significant premium increases, major reduction in benefits, addition or removal of benefit option. So the way I think about this is if an employee has a spouse and that spouse gets a brand new job and maybe that new spouse has 100% coverage for their employee independent health insurance, and the employee comes to the employer and says, I signed up for this thing through you guys like 6 months ago, but my wife, she's kicking butt and I can go get insurance for free over there, so I'm going to cancel this. They can absolutely do that with this. Basically, if it is financially advantageous for the employee to do another option, you as the employer should allow them, and the IRS does allow them to make that change. So keep that in mind. If you become eligible for the marketplace exchange like a Covered California, you may drop employer coverage mid-year to enroll in that plan. That's really the black and white of it. I always like to give you guys resources to see it in black and white, to make sure you know where this information is coming from. Because we all hear about qualifying events and what is a qualifying event. Much of that is based off of these rules that the IRS put forward. So that's it for today. Thank you for nerding out with me. It was an absolute pleasure. If you like content like this, please make a comment below and subscribe. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.